Hi, welcome to the virtual orientation for the 2022 Jay Flight 264BH by Jayco. We're going to start this orientation on the outside of the RV. We're going to begin near the front. First thing we'll look at is your front pass-through storage compartment. There's a couple things that you will find in here. Apart from empty space waiting for you to fill it full of your important items, we also have the manual crank for your electric tongue jack and the manual crank for your stabilization jacks. Since we're right here anyways, we'll take a look at the stabilization jack. There's 4 of them. They're located on the 4 corners of the trailer. It's important to note that the jacks are always used just for stabilizing, never used to level the trailer. You should have it perfectly level, or as level as you want it, prior to engaging the stabilization jacks. I would also suggest carrying some extra blocking around with you in case you're ever camping somewhere that the ground isn't as level. Commonly 6x6s are used. So the first thing we'll notice when we stand up and look at the side marker lights here is they're a little wider, and there's an extra piece on the front here. Well, the extra width and the extra piece on the front is actually pre-wiring in a housing for cameras, side view cameras. So this marker light and the one identical on the other side is pre-wired for it as well. And what they will do is give you a side view of the RV while in transit or while stationary via a head unit that can be used to monitor the various cameras on the RV. Now, these are not included. They're an extra that you can purchase, and they can be purchased at any time. As we continue to move our way around the front of the RV, we'll make note of the battery storage area here and your propane. It's a double 30-pound system. However, as we talk about this dual 30-pound storage system, it is connected via this crossover regulator here. What that means is, at the moment, the handle is pointing in this direction towards this tank. So it's going to draw from here first. In the event or when the pressure drops below a predetermined amount, that predetermined amount is determined by the regulator and you cannot adjust it. So when this bottle drops below that predetermined amount of pressure, it will automatically cross over and draw from the secondary bottle. Directly in front of the propane storage, you'll see your electric tongue jack. First thing we'll note on the jack is this rubber stopper here. It can be used in conjunction with the manual crank that I showed you earlier in the front storage compartment. Directly below that, we'll have your switching to bring the tongue up or down, and a light on front that can be handy to use when you're loading at night. Also on the front or A-frame of the trailer, we'll find the safety breakaway switch. The loop end will be attached to the tow vehicle, and the other end is attached to this pin that is seated in this housing. In the event that the tow vehicle becomes separated from the RV, this pin will be pulled free from the housing and engage the trailer brakes. On a side note, I have seen a time or two where this gets stepped on and it gets pulled out partially, enough to engage the braking system but not enough to fully pull it free of the housing. So if you're finding that the brakes are engaged in the trailer and they shouldn't be, take a look here and make sure the pin is fully seated. Continue along the other side, the outdoor side of the RV. Just making quick note of the other side view camera, pre-wired housing there. we'll make our way along. The next thing we're going to come to is your potable water. This is where you would put some fresh water via a hose into your freshwater tank. You would do this if you're going to be going to a campground that does not have potable water or water that is drinkable, or if you're going to be camping off grid and you won't have a water supply, you will draw from this freshwater tank via the onboard water pump. And right below here you will see the drain for the freshwater tank. Another thing that I'll mention, these freshwater tanks have an overflow protection. So if you're ever filling a tank and you kind of forget about it, you're running around doing a bunch of other things, you might see a bunch of water spilling out from underneath, and I know the first thought you're going to have is, maybe some different words in there. But that is designed to do so. So right here you'll see these two hoses essentially. They actually are the overflow for your freshwater tank. So if you do, and we do it here all the time, we're running around doing a bunch of stuff, the overflow will work, and it will not flood your RV. So now we'll take a look at your city water connection. Essentially, this is a garden hose connection point that you can use to connect the hose from your campground or from your house itself. Once connected, and once you turn the tap on that is connected to the hose, it will pressurize the onboard water system in the RV, much like the water in your home, and you can use it as such. Next in line, we have the venting for your refrigerator. Now, maximum airflow is needed through the venting for the refrigerator to work properly, so it's always important to make sure that this remains obstruction free. Directly below that, we have your 30 amp connection point. This is where you will connect your RV to the campground power or to the power at home. Now, most of us don't have a 30 amp plug at home on the outside of the house. So we've provided you with a conversion block that is inside the RV that you can use on the plug end to convert it to a 15 amp plug. Now, it won't run the air conditioning and everything like that. It will, however, be enough to run your lights and refrigerator and most everything else. Just make a quick note of your outdoor shower, very handy. We have your black tank flush here, same idea as your city water connection. Connect your garden hose from either home or the campground there. Open the valve here, make sure you are connected to the sanitary system or sewage system. Make sure the valve is open here, so make sure that's open. The black water valve, and then you may connect the water and turn it on. While we're down here, we'll make note of your main output for your black and gray water tanks, as well as your gray water valve handle. On the back off door side of the RV, we have your cable or satellite input for the RV. We'll make our way along the back of the RV, making note of the ladder access to the roof and the rear view camera. Now, like the side view cameras I mentioned earlier, it can be purchased separately or as part of a package with the side view cameras. And it can be used to monitor the rear of the vehicle while in transit or while stationary via a head unit or screen that can be plugged into the 12 volt accessory plug inside the vehicle. Continue along the outside. Almost come full circle now. we have access to the outside portion of your hot water tank. And the important parts to make note of here are your drain plug or cap and the pressure relief valve. This drain cap, when removed with the system pressurized, can come out quite forcefully. So it's always important to make sure that you open the pressure relief valve first before removing this drain cap. So the next thing we're going to come to is basically just storage space. However, there is an important thing inside the storage space. This gives you access to the outside access to the storage underneath your bunk. Now, there are 3 red Robertson screws that I previously undid, and it gives you access to your hot water tank. So what we're interested in mostly are the valves on the back. These allow you to bypass the tank for winterizing or to flow water through the tank for normal use. Right now the valves are in the normal use position. In order to switch it to winterizing mode, we simply turn both valve handles in that direction, and that will cause the water to loop up through here and not pass through the tank. There's really no point in filling your tank full of antifreeze, as it has a drain plug. So also underneath your awning here, you'll see we have a mounting bracket for TV as well as 120 volt power and your cable or satellite TV output. Also under your awning, we have 1 and 2 speakers. Those speakers can be used in conjunction with the stereo inside the RV itself. Well, now that we've come full circle, let's open this up and we'll take a look inside and see what we have. As per most of the RVs we look at, the onboard fire extinguisher is right inside the door. Very handy location, easy access to any uses while cooking outside or inside. So as we step in here, we're going to make note of a couple things. Right inside the door to your left, we have switching for your awning light and for the main lights of the RV, as well as the controls to bring the awning in and out. If we crouch down here, take a look at your propane carbon monoxide gas alarm or detector. You'll see there's a green light here indicating the system is good to go and working properly. And right above that we have a button. Now it's important that we test this system every so often, and we can do so by pressing this button. When you do that, it will sound an alarm and make a bunch of beeps and noises. The green light will turn red, and when the system is good to go, it will turn back to green. Couple things, and I believe it says so here as well. There are different items that will set off your detector that aren't carbon monoxide or propane, or at least aren't things that you should be directly worried about. One of such would be paint. So if you do any painting, just be aware that that will affect the functioning of your alarm. It could cause it to go off. Take a look into your bedroom. You'll see in the bedroom we have a mounting position already pre-installed for TV, as well as cable or satellite output and 120 volt power. Also, we have the emergency exit. In order to utilize this, push down on the black tab, push the red handle over and out, bring the red handle perpendicular with the wall of the RV, push the handle all the way out, and once all the way out, you can grab the red handle here and and get yourself to safety. Right above this window, we will note the pre-wired for solar here. This is where your solar head unit would go. This makes it a lot easier to install a solar panel and give you control and monitoring capabilities of your solar system. We have some under bed storage here. As we make our way into the main area of the RV, make note of your smoke detector here. It's a good idea to change the batteries every 6 months. The general consensus, I believe, is daylight savings time or around the time changes. For that reason, it's easy to remember. I usually suggest that we test your carbon monoxide propane detector as well. That way you can make sure all safety systems are functioning as intended. If we move straight ahead, we will see a couple things. The first one will be the GFCI for the unit. If the unit is tripped or the plug is tripped, you'll see that a red light will be on. What that'll mean is anything on the load side of this plug will not be functional. What would commonly be on the load side be anything near water, bathroom plug perhaps, or any of your plugs outside. Directly below that we have your indication panel giving you your levels for your battery, fresh, black and gray water tanks, as well as switching for your water pump and your water heater on gas and electric. As we move over in front of your stove and range top, the first thing we want to talk about or do whenever you're going to utilize this is to remove the glass covering. Never light the stove with the glass down. It will break for sure. In order to light, we'll turn this valve handle to the light position. And once in the light position, we'll leave it there and then turn the sparking knob to ignite. You do the same for all 3 burners. Now you do the same thing for the stove or the oven, with one small exception, is once you get it to the light position, you press and hold the knob in as you turn the sparker. Important to note that you should always open the door before you attempt to light your stove. Your refrigerator will work on gas or electricity. In the gas setting, it will work on gas only. And you will see that if there is an issue with the gas or with lighting the appliance, that this light will flash. It will take a minute or two as it cycles through. It'll try to light a few times. And once it's stopped its kind of cycle of trying to light, if it was unable to do so, you will see that this light is flashing. If that is the case, generally a lot of times it's pretty simple. Either you forgot to open the bottles on the front, or you open the bottles but there hasn't been enough time for the pressure to build up in the line. See, there we go, flashing. I don't have the gas turned on. On auto mode, it will automatically switch between gas or electricity depending on what's available, always selecting electricity first. Make your way into the bathroom here. Pretty standard. Skylight in the shower is always a nice thing, just adds a lot of extra light. Here we have your top and bottom bunks. This bottom bunk also gives you access via this panel here to the outside storage compartment or your hot water tank. So if it's rainy or a little cold out, you don't have to go access your hot water tank outside. You can crawl in under the bunk if you wish. Now, I'd also like to point out that we have an emergency exit inside the bunk as well that functions the exact same as the one I showed you previously. Your thermostat here uses a capacitive touch button and will control your furnace and your air conditioner. Capacitive touch means it is not a mechanical button, so it's just a nice light touch, more like a little tap, and it'll cycle through your fan, which has auto, low, and high settings, as well as your air conditioning and your furnace. Your TV, the most important thing to know about your TV is this button here. This will switch you between your signal booster for your antenna. It switches it on and off. If you're trying to watch cable or satellite, the signal booster will do the opposite of boosting your signal, actually interfere with it. So make sure that this is off if you're using cable or satellite. But if you want a little clearer signal when using your antenna, make sure it's on. And right underneath there we have your onboard stereo. It has USB charging capabilities as well as HDMI, auxiliary, and Bluetooth connections. And two zones, two speaker zones. Zone 1 being inside the RV and Zone 2 being outside the RV. And I showed that to you earlier when we did our outside tour. One of the last things I'm going to show you is the location for your water pump. Your water pump is underneath this bottom drawer, so you can either access it by removing that drawer, or it's pretty accessible just from opening the cupboard, and there's your water pump. The main thing that we want to talk about is the valve handle right here. At the moment it is in line with this hose here, which will draw from the freshwater tank. If you want it to draw from the fill tube here, which you would use while you're winterizing to draw from a antifreeze jug, then turn the valve handle in that direction. For normal use or to draw from the freshwater tank, we'll turn it back to that position. And the last, absolutely last thing we're going to look at is this here. This is your load center of breakers, much like you'd see in your house, and they function the same way, and they're neatly labeled over to the side. And we have fuses much like you'd see in your vehicle. They are also labeled, and they also have a little LED light along the side here that will light up if any one of the individual circuits has an issue. That about does it for the tour of your new RV. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. I do my best to think of everything. So if I missed anything that you may have liked me to talk more about, we'd be happy to help you. Give us a call and we'll do our best to answer all your questions so you can enjoy your RV experience. Thank you.